Hello everyone, today we're going to be talking about representing relationships. This is title 4.1. Go ahead and write that in your composition notebook. And what represent relationships means is we are using tables and graphs to write equations. And sometimes we're even given a description, but we're using those to write an equation in y equals mx plus b form. Now, I know what you're thinking. Mrs. Taylor, come on. We've done this. We already know how to do this. Well, you are partially right, yes. But example 1 is on the board. And if you look at example 1, you'll notice something. We'll talk about that in a second. First, let's write our y equals mx plus b on our paper. This is our key to success. Y equals mx plus b. A little bit of a glare there. Okay, so our m, remember, is our slope, and our b is our y-intercept. So we need two things to write an equation. We need our slope, and we need our y-intercept. Slope, we know how to find slope from a table, done it a million times, so let's go ahead and do that. Remember, to find the slope from a table, we're doing the change in y over the change in x. So I'm going to write that down. M equals the change in y over the change in x. Okay, so let's start with our y's because they're on top. To get from 10 to 16, I have to add 6. To get from 16 to 22, again, I have to add 6. Okay, great. So that's my change in y. Let's look at my change in x. To get from 1 to 2, I add 1. To get from 2 to 3, I add 1 again. Okay, so now my change in y was 6, and my change in x was 1. Okay, so my slope then is 6 over 1. We could also reduce this to just 6. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and write that in my equation. So I still have y equals my mx plus b. So we're just filling in these blanks. This is my m right here, and I got 6. So now I have to find my y-intercept. Now, here's the catch. Most of the time when you've done these sorts of problems, your y-intercept has been given to you in the table, and it more than likely said 0, some number. But this time we start at 1, we don't start at 0. So we have to find our y-intercept. Fear not. We can, because we can just work backwards. Okay, so let's start with the y's again since we started with those. Since we added 6 here, to work backwards to go up the table, we have to do the opposite. So instead of adding 6, we subtract 6 from 10. So 10 minus 6 is 4. Okay? So then if we're on the flip side, same thing here. If we added 1 to go down the table, to go up the table, we need to subtract 1 from 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. So that's our point, 0, 4. So that means my y-intercept is when x is 0, and that means y is 4. So my y-intercept is 4. So if you're asked to write an equation, this would be your equation. Y equals 6x plus 4. Okay, this is example problem number 2. I'll give you a second to write this down. I'm just going to read the problem slowly so that you can just copy it down. So it says the library charges a late fee of $2 plus 10 cents for each day that it's late. We need to write an equation, and we need to determine how much my fine is if it's a week late. Now here's a little fun fact for you. By day, yes, I am your teacher. You got it. But by night, I am a librarian. You see, I work at a library. And this is actually very true. We do charge people late fines because if we don't, they never return our books. And then we run out of books and people need to read. So this is a very practical problem. I hope after my story you have finished writing this down. Okay, so we're asked to write an equation, so we're going to start with that. Again, remember our equation should be in the form of y equals mx plus b. And remember, we're only replacing our m and our b. M is slope, b is y-intercept. So we're going to look at the problem to determine what's my y-intercept and what's my slope. So slope, remember, is a lot like unit rate. So whenever you see a number per something, like some sort of money per day or something for each day, that's always going to be, little siren should go off in your head saying that's slope. So something with the word per in it or for each. So I see for each, that makes me think this could be something to do with slope. Okay, so let's change gears. Whenever we have a number that's standing by itself that says plus a fee of this, or also you have to add this onto it. It's a one-time fee that you pay. Okay, that could be our y-intercept. So, remember our y-intercept stands alone, and our slope is being multiplied by something. So in this case, x stands for days. So it's 10 cents for each day that it's late. So our slope is in fact, I'm going to do this in a different color. Our slope is in fact 10 cents. So I'm going to write it as 0.10 because we're dealing with money. Okay? And of course y equals multiplying our slope by x, and then we're adding that one-time fee. Again, if there's ever a one-time fee, that's your y-intercept, plus 2. So y equals 0.10 x plus 2. Now, that's our equation, so we're done. That's all we had to do on this first part. The second part says how much is my fine if my book is a week late. So remember, this was per day. So my x is each day that it's late. My question is asking how much though for 1 week. So make sure you don't just put 1 in there because this is per day. So we're going to put 7 in for x because it's 7 days. Okay, so we want to know how much we have to pay. So y, which represents our total cost, that's what we're trying to find, equals 0.10 times 7, because there's 7 days in a week and we're trying to figure out how much it costs for a week, plus 2. So now if I multiply this out, I get y equals 70 cents plus 2. So my late fine is $2.70. And that is it. That's all you have to do. So on these word problems, pick out the slope, pick out the y-intercept, plug it into your formula, and if you need to solve, make sure you're paying attention to what x stands for and what y stands for, and you'll be a-okay. Okay, this is example problem number 3. I know you can't see me right now, and that's okay. I just need you to go ahead and copy down this graph. Cups of hot chocolate and the cost per cup. Go ahead and copy these 3 points down in your composition book. Okay, if you're still copying down, that's okay. You can always pause the video, but I'm going to go ahead and move on. So remember, again, we are still trying to make this graph into an equation in the form of y equals mx plus b. So we need to find the slope still, and we need to find the y-intercept still. Now, we've found the slope from a graph a million gazillion times, so I have no worries that y'all will be able to do that. But let's just do it together real quick. So I'm following these dashes as my points. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so if I start at this point and I get to this point, to find the slope, I'm going to use rise over run. No surprise there. So my rise, I'm going up 1, 2, 3, and I'm going over 1 to be on top of this point. So my rise was 3 and my run was 1, which simplifies down to 3 over 1. So that's my n. I can go ahead and write that in my equation. Okay, so y equals 3x, and we still need to find our b. Again, it's not given in this graph, so we need to solve for it. It could be 0, but it also could very well be a different number. So, just like we used rise over run to get to this point, and we could use it to get to this point, we're going to start from this point, and we're going to go down and to the left. So we're going to try to find where it goes through the y-axis on the graph using rise over run. So if I start at this point, just like I went up 3, this time I'm going to go down 3. Make sure I can see that. So I'm going down 1, 2, 3. Okay, now I'm at the x-axis, and I have to go over 1. So this is 1, so I'm going over 1 more. That's 0. 0, 0. So I still went down 3, and I went over 1. Okay? So I just did the opposite of up here. Instead of going up and to the right, I went down and to the left. So this means that my y-intercept is 0 because it crosses the y-axis at 0. So it's y equals 3x plus 0. If you ever have this as an equation, you can just take that off. You can remove the plus 0 because it doesn't change the equation. Y equals 3x is the same thing as y equals 3x plus 0. So we just leave off the plus 0, and that is our equation. Y equals 3x. These are your practice problems for tonight. Each one you need to write an equation in the form of y equals mx plus b. So there's a table, a graph, and then this little description situation. So I'm going to give you a second. I'll zoom in on these and move out of the way so that y'all can copy them down. Please submit them through Edmodo. Take a picture and submit them through Edmodo.